Now, after all of the bad press that Dead or Alive 6 has gotten, a lot of people were still hopeful for the game. I'm not going to lie, I was still interested in it, even after, Shimbori changed his mind on statements, blaming them on misinterpretations, and after Evo, a lot of other people were actually interested in it as well, knowing that it was causing some kind of controversy. But there are two things that I want to talk about in regards to the game today. One being the player numbers and how the game has already failed, and the season pass situation and how we are payers, not players. So first of all, looking at Steam's charts, the game didn't even take off the ground. Dead or Alive was dead on arrival, just like we thought it would be. Now, I'm going to say this, I'm sure that it sold better on consoles. Obviously, I don't think that I have to say that with the numbers that I'm about to give you, but on Steam's charts, the game is already showing it can barely hold over 1,000 players online at once. And the highest peak that the game has received was obviously on launch day, with 2,095 players. Seriously? That's it? I wasn't expecting it to be this low. I wasn't expecting it to be amazing, but this is really, really awful. And I'm gonna be honest, looking at Dead or Alive 5 on Steam, it never really did much better, but what's hilarious is the peak of Dead or Alive 5 was 2,738 players, and that was on Dead or Alive 5's release day as well. So, compared release days, Dead or Alive 5 was definitely a little bit better. Not by much, but just a little bit. When this game was first announced, it had the hype. I mean, it had the excitement, and I understand that it wasn't expected to be a release like Kingdom Hearts 3 or Red Dead Redemption 2 when it was first announced. But the loyal fans of this series would have still been interested in it if they didn't try to take away the unique aspects of it. The censorship of fan service was a problem, trying to pick their audience was a problem, and all of these things turned people off. And we're seeing those effects now in what the game could have released. The game could have released a little bit better, and the game has released with poor numbers like these now that they've tried to change these things and these aspects. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about that smells like bad news is the DLC aspect of it. Now, Dead or Alive has always been a series that has always had a mess of a DLC system. They leave out key items such as skins and characters sheerly for monetization purposes. That's not very new. They've also been known to leave out characters from previous games and then sell them as part of the new games, reusing old content, and this round of Dead or Alive, the monetization game is even worse than the previous entry into the franchise. And yes, with one of the DLC characters as was part of Dead or Alive 5, and now they're charging you for it in 6. Dead or Alive 5 with 30 characters at $3.99 each, many costume sets like Halloween sets, fun theme sets, Senran Kangura sets ranging from $75 to $20, all of it added together to be $1,177.34, and this time around, Dead or Alive 6 is looking even worse, with the first round of DLC being the Season Pass 1 being $93, and you receive 62 costumes and 2 new characters. $33 more than the base game itself, and a character they're reusing from the last entry into the franchise. This is absolutely absurd. $93. I understand 62 costumes seems like a lot, but it realistically isn't when, in the game itself, you can unlock costumes. It does take a long time because they did jack it up, of course, so you want to purchase costumes. But 62 costumes isn't a lot. They should have added that into the game itself and made those aspects that you had to play to receive. And 2 new characters. One of them they're reusing, like I said, from the last entry into the Dead or Alive franchise. That is not worth $93 in my opinion. It might be in your opinion. You can spend your $93 on what you want, but you don't even get the base game with the $93 pass. That's insane. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I am someone that rarely purchases games at $60 because of things like this. I know that almost every title now is going to have DLC of some sort. Characters, content, skins. It's ridiculous, but it is part of games and how we know them. And I try to minimize the amount of money I personally spend on DLC because it adds up, and it could end up adding up to the cost of a whole other video game. And I know a lot of other people think the same way as I do. Everyone doesn't. But even so, I do purchase DLC in additions to games from time to time. Of course I do. You know, there's always going to be because some games do it correctly, and there's always going to be some sort of game that I really do want the DLC for. And some games do this properly, and they don't try to virtually scam you out of hundreds of dollars for the least amount of content that you could receive. But it's things like this that makes me wonder if DLC should be regulated like loot boxes. It makes me wonder why, as a consumer, you would feed into these awful prices and practices like this one. Because it's your favorite game series? You know, do you still love this series after Shimbori tried to turn his back on you as the consumer and fan and tried to feed the game to the wrong audience and tried to cater to the wrong audience? If it wasn't for Evo dumping Dead or Alive 6 on the game's lineup, you wouldn't have gotten patches to bring back the jiggle mechanics or to enhance the costumes in those specific ways. If it wasn't for them trying to cater to Evo and Evo backing down on them, you wouldn't have gotten any of this. They were trying to feed to that esports craze, even though the game was already proper enough to be part of the esports craze. And it came back to bite them, and now it's not part of Evo, and it's not part of any lineups like that. You know, unfortunately, I have to look at it that way. You know, even though this might be your favorite game series, and I'm going to be honest, I love the Dead or Alive series, is it really worth it to feed into companies like this, even if it's your favorite game series, when you could wait a year to get it cheaper, or wait a couple of years to get the Ultimate Edition with all of the DLC and all of the content that came out on it, maybe for cheaper? Now, Dead or Alive isn't known to fully do this. They do end up, you know, having sales and such, but is it really worth it to pay $93 when I'm sure this is going to go down because of the heat that it's taking right now? Either way, it's sad to see the game already having a very hard time taking off of the ground on Steam, the main PC platform that you can purchase this game on, but it's also really sad to see that you and I are only seen as consumers, not as players that deserve a good and whole experience out of a 20-odd year long franchise. You guys will have to let me know all of your thoughts on Dead or Alive 6 now that it is officially launched. What are your thoughts on the Steam numbers, the Season Pass? What are your thoughts on everything that has gone down around the game? Did you end up purchasing it when it launched? Are you planning on purchasing it? Are you hoping that this game is still going to succeed even though player numbers are already very low? Please let me know all of your thoughts on Dead or Alive 6 in the comments down below. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a like, and of course if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either which way, but I hope that you guys enjoyed, and I will talk to you guys again really soon.